Hello everyone and welcome to this Python joins and unions tutorial for beginners. Now please note that this video is actually part 2, and if you haven't watched part 1 already, I'm going to have a link in the description. You should go and watch that part 1 first, as this video is a continuation of part 1. Now in part 1 I've covered a few things like from where to download the raw data files we will be using for this tutorial, how to import them and put them into a Pandas Dataframes, from where to download this Python notebook so you can actually follow this tutorial through. And then I've also covered extensively a left join. How does a left join work? I've given a lot of time on left join just because as a data scientist or a data analyst, 70% of the time you will be applying left joins, and the rest is going to be the rest of the joins which I'm going to be covering in this tutorial. So please go and watch that part 1 first before you come here. Right, going down to inner joins now, which is where we left it. Inner join, there we go. So again, imagine that we have two tables, table A and table B. Table A has 7 rows, table B has 10 rows. It's exactly the same tables as we had in our left join. However, this time we are applying an inner join. And again, our output now, what we want to do is that we want to use table A with these 4 columns. And next to these 4 columns, we want to add the marketing spend and the promo, which comes from table B. So our output should look like the table we have here. All the columns from table A and the marketing spend and promo that comes from table B. However, on an inner join now, how inner join works is that it's only going to bring in the output columns that exist in both table A and table B. So just to visualize how it works, it starts with date is actually the key column we are joining on. So it starts by searching the 1st of February 2021 into table B. It cannot find anything. So as you can see, this arrow now is going to stop here and it's not going to bring this first row in our output just because it does not exist in table B. Then it continues with the 2nd of February 2021. It checks, it can find the 2nd of February, and it actually brings the data into the output. Same story follows for the rest of the dates, all the way from the 2nd to the 6th. And then we go down to the 7th. Again, it checks, it cannot find anything, so it stops here. It's not going to bring the 7th on the output. And then if we look at table B now, we have the 30th and the 31st, which do not exist in table A. So again, we are not bringing them in the output. So remember how we've done the left join, where we said that all the rows from table A should stay in the output. In this case, only the rows that match in both tables are going to be in the output. So if you check the total number of rows now, there is no maths behind it, so we can't know what the right answer is going to be. Like we knew in the left join that it has to be exactly the same rows as table A, just because it depends on how many rows match from table A and table B. And in our case, only 5 rows match, which is those blue arrows, so we only have 5 rows in our output. Right. So just to show you how to apply an inner join now, I'm going to start by again printing the shapes of table A and table B, so we know how many rows we have. So I'm going to scroll up all the way to our left join, and I'm going to copy this and paste it down here, which is exactly the same raw data that we are using. So we can see that table A, which is our revenue table, has 119 rows. It's not 7 now, but it's exactly the same rows. And our table B, I'm just going to paste it down here, which is marketing row, paste.head. It has 124 rows and 3 columns. Right, to apply an inner join now is exactly the same function, the merge, that we've used before, and exactly the same examples as we've used in our left join. The only difference is that let's quickly copy and paste example 1 from before. So this is how we've done example 1 left join, just to show you how easy it is. So we paste it down here where it says example 1 inner join. And the only thing we have to change now, instead in the how, instead of saying left, we just replace this with inner, and everything else is the same, because remember, the key from our first table, which is this table, is date, and then the key from our second table, which is this table, is date again. The only thing we change is inner. Again, we can also use example 2 and 3 to apply exactly the same thing with inner join. And then if I run this now, just to visualize it, we can see that all the rows now have data. Because remember, we only want to see data that matches on both occasions, table A and table B. If I check the shape now, again, remember, no nuns, we don't see any nuns. If I check the shape now, we can see that out of the, how many rows? 119 rows in table A and 124 rows in table B, only 6 rows match between those two. So to print the shape, I'm actually have it down here, so I need to say print the shape, and then I also need to print the data frame to visualize it, which we've already done this before. What did I do? No shape, df. What am I doing? Right, moving down to full joins now. So again, imagine that we have two tables we want to join, table A and table B. Exactly the same tables as we've used in our left join and inner join. Table A has 4 columns and 7 rows. Table B has actually 10 rows and 3 columns. Our output, what we want to do is to full join these two tables together, and next to revenue add marketing spend and promo, which is what we see here, which is marketing spend next to revenue and promo. However, the way full join works now is we are basically saying, we start from left to right, but what we say is that check in table, from table A, check if it exists in table B. If it doesn't exist in table B, we still want to see it in the output, which is the left join. Additionally though, it has another rule, which is saying from table B now, check if it exists in table A. If it does, then join it. If it doesn't, then still we want to see the data. So just to go with the arrows now, the way it works, we check this 1st of February 2021, if it exists in table B. It doesn't exist. However, we still want to see it in the output because it's a full join. We want all the data from both table A and table B. So we bring the data here. The first 4 day observations, so the day, visitors and revenue come from table A, as you can see, and then 2 empty spaces because it does not exist in table B. However, we still want to see these 2 columns. And then it follows up from the 2nd all the way to the 6th. We see that they actually match. So here is where we see these columns that actually have data from both table A and table B. Then it goes to the 7th, it checks, it cannot match anything. However, it still brings the data because, again, it's a full join. We do want to see all the data. And then the second pair of rules, so the additional rules we have versus the left join, is that we go from to table B now, and we check all the unmatched rows, which is the 30th, the 31st, the 8th, 9th, and 11th, that do not exist in table A. We still want to bring them in our output, which is here, the 30th, the 31st, and then down to the 8th, 9th, and 10th. We don't have any data for those columns in day, visitors, and revenue because they don't exist in table A. However, they have marketing spend and promo, which comes from table B. So you understand how the output table works from a full join. So all the rows from both tables, A and B, exist in the output table, regardless if there is a match or not. Right, to run a full join now, is actually very simple. We're going to start with the same methodology by printing the shapes of table A and table B, as we've done in our left join and inner join. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it down here. And again, we are using the same row data. So we are using the revenue row, which is this table here, and it has a total of 119 rows or observations. And then marketing row dot head, which has a total number of 124 rows and 3 columns. And again, we do want to, next to add next to revenue, marketing spend, and promo up here. To do this now is actually very easy. We still need to use the merge function that we've used in left join and inner join. And in the how, instead of saying left or inner, we just have to say outer. It's as easy as that. So I'm just going to scroll up to our inner join and copy the .merge that we've created, or left join is exactly the same. Paste it down here, and this is basically saying pd.merge revenue row, which is our table A, marketing row, which is our table B, how here is where we need to say outer. So outer is actually full join. It's not the same as SQL where we say full join. It's actually called outer in Python. Left on date, which is actually the key from table A. Right on date again, which is the key from table B. We want to print the shape, so we can say print and then df.shape. I'm just going to drag it down here, and then we want to visualize it. Let's just visualize all of it. Right. So let's see what we have now. We have a total of 175 rows. As we've seen, it starts with table A, and then it has nones because it doesn't match. It doesn't have any marketing spend or promo to match. And if we scroll down here is where, so this data actually exists in table B and not in table A because we have all the nones that come from table A. Right, let's just print .head now. Right, the next thing we want to do now is that we want to investigate out of those 175 rows, which rows come from table A and which rows come from table B. Because from currently, as we have the whole data set here, I mean, we can see that the first, all these rows here must be from table A because they don't have any data from marketing spend and promo. But what we want to do is that we want to add a new column here that says this row comes from table A and this row comes from table B and this row matches in both tables. So to do this, there is a query called indicator which will produce another column. So I can just copy and paste the same query as we had before that creates the data frame, and here I can just say comma indicator equals true. And what this is going to do is that it's going to tell me from where each column comes from. So if I run the df now, we can see that it created a new column. It's called _merge, and it says left only. And if I scroll down, it says right only. So what I want to do first, I want to select the distinct values that this column has, just to investigate that. So a way to do this is just say df and then select this column. This is actually going to bring back a list. Then I can say .unique and run this. So we can see that this column has 3 objects in it: left only, both, which is actually the match, and then right only. So just to understand this visually, left only is actually going to be the gray arrows that come from table A. Right only is going to be the gray arrows that come from table B, and then both is going to be the blue arrows. So we want to see how many of those arrows we have in our final data frame, let's say. So let's just print this, just to have it printed, the unique values. And now I can just simply say from my data frame, I can just select the left only. So actually, to do this, let's just print the head so we know what's going on. Put it down here, make some space. There we go. So now I want to print the shapes of all these 3 unique values. So how many rows we have in left only, how many rows we have in both, and how many rows we have in right only. To do this, first of all, I have to create another data frame that just has, to start with, the left only. So to do this, we can say df, and then open brackets, and then open quotes, select the left only to start with. And then say I want to select the column name first, sorry, done mistake, and then say equals and this is where I want to put the left only. There we go. And then I want to call all the df back because I do want to see all the df. If I run this now, we can see that these rows now, I don't actually have the name of the rows, are the rows that come just from table A. So all these rows, they don't match with B, but we do have them in the output as a left only. So now I just want to print the shape, so I can say dot shape and then print it, and we can see we have a total of 51 rows coming from A alone. So actually I can just say A just to be easier. So let's see, and put a comma here, paste it, there we go, and then I can copy this, paste it below, and I do want to see B. So this is coming from B, and this is the both. And B is going to be the right only. This is the B. And then the both is going to be the both. Yeah. If I run this now, we can see that we have a total of 51 rows come just from A. A total of 56 rows come from just B. And we have 68 rows that match on both tables. Remember, this 68 is actually our inner join. So if I scroll back, as I was saying before, in our inner join that I'm going to explain later on how to see the rows that match on inner join alone. If you check, this is our inner join, you can see we only had 68 rows that actually match from table A and table B. Right, if I go back down now, and let's do the math now. So the math is basically 51 plus 56 plus 68. And then I want to print the math. And I also want to print the shape of our final output. So now we can see that the math 175. So if I add A, B, and both, it gives me 175. And our total output from our full join is 175. So now I hope you understand how a full join works. We've actually done a very good explanation of how and from where everything comes from. And if you feel that you're getting enough value out of this video, by the way, I would really appreciate it if you click that like button and subscribe to my channel. Right, moving on, we have the cross join. Just to explain how a cross join works, again, we have table A. This time we only have 4 rows in table A. I've removed some because of the math is going to be a bit more complex. The space, actually, not the math. It was going to take longer space. Table B only has 6 rows this time. And what we want to do again, next to table A, we want to cross join table B. So next to revenue, we want to have marketing spend and promo the same way we have it here on the output, marketing spend and promo. The way the cross join works now is basically when we want to join everything with everything. So just to help you understand it, we take this first line from table A. So let's say first row, and we want to match this first row next to every single row from table B. So it matches with this one, it matches with this one, with this one, with this one, with this one, and with this one. So if you check the output now, which is blue, the first row, which is the 1st of February 2021, is actually going to be 6 times, which is the number of rows we have in table B, which is exactly the same. So if you see the duplication, we have exactly the same observation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And then next to each of these observations, we add the rows from table B. So the 654, the 90, the 100162, and then exactly the same with promotion. Then we move on to the second line, which is the 2nd of, February, and we do the same thing. We see this second line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, which is the number of rows we have in table B. And it works the same way with the 3rd row, the 4th row, and it goes on and on, depending how many rows we have. Some of the notes we have here is that all the rows from table A will be matched with all the rows from table B. So everything with everything. We do not need a key column to join on. So since we are matching everything with everything, we don't actually have to say A.date equals B.date, because then it was only going to match this 1st of February to nowhere, because it doesn't exist. or this 2nd of February, it was only going to match it with this row here. However, because it's a cross join, we want to match everything with everything, so we don't need a key column. And the last thing is that there will be duplication. So always when you're running cross join, because you don't have a key and you're joining everything with everything, there will be duplication. So see how much duplication we have now on visitors. We duplicate each line 6 times. So if we sum the revenue, we're going to be so off. So always be very careful when you're using cross joins. They do have their importance. So the cases where I've used cross join in my line of work is where when I had to create a forecast, so I had to for each observation, I had to join all the remaining months. So I had to create, let's say, 6 new rows per product for the forecast for the 6 remaining months. So they do have their use cases. You just need to be very careful how to use them. Right, in terms of actually applying or running the cross join, unfortunately, there is no pre-existing function that I'm aware that does the cross join itself. So it's not like we've done the pd.merge and then we change the how into cross join and it's gonna work. I mean, I don't know why. It sounds simple. So the way to do this, I've done some Googling. Apparently, you have to create your own function yourself, which is basically you create a function that has 2 tables. It takes 2 tables as input. It creates a key. It matches them on the same key, and then it drops the key. So you don't have to know how to create functions. You can just copy and paste what I'm going to do here. Later on in my tutorials, I will do tutorials on how to create functions. So to do this, again, you can say define. I'm just going to name the function cross join, and then this is going to take 2 tables as inputs. I'm just going to say table 1, table A. I'm going to say table 1, comma table 2, and then I want this to return open brackets. And here is where I have to say table 1 dot assign, and this is going to be key. What did I name this? Key equals 1, key equals 1, and then I have to merge this. So I'm going to say dot merge. So merge it again, we've shown when we bring data together. And I need to merge it with table 2, which is table B. I was about to say table B, table 2, which again, we need an assign here, and we need to say key equals 1. So I'm giving them exactly the same key. And then here I need to put comma on, and I'm going to match these 2 on the key. So this new key that I've created. So what I'm saying, I want to match all the rows with all the rows from the 2 tables that I'm giving as inputs. And at the end, I also want to drop. It was a drop. I do want to drop the key. So I'm just going to say drop key and then comma 1 from the access. And then let's see, this is closing. If I run this, it works. So the way it works now to run this cross join I've created, this function, let me remove this. I have to say df equals, and then the cross join. So I copy it, I paste it. And in table 1 and table 2 is where I'm going to put the revenue table and the marketing table that we had before. So let me just quickly copy and paste the shapes that we've done in our full join up here. There we go, paste it. So we know the tables. Let me just paste table B2 so we can actually visualize the tables. So head, there we go. Table A is going to be my revenue table, and table B is going to be my marketing row. And then if I run the let's run the DFF just to see how it looks. We get an error. It says it doesn't have key. So we probably done a mistake here. So we drop the key. Right, I found the mistake. Python is case sensitive. So because I said key here on capitals, I was just breaking my mind why this is not working. It should be key as lowercase. So I'll just replace it, run it. And if I run my cross join now, it works fine. So as you can see, we have loads of rows now. And what we want to do is that to print the shape first of all, just to check the shape. So I want to say print df.shape, And then let me just run it. We have a total of 14,000 rows. So just to do the math, as we have up here, where is 4 times 6 equals 24. If we do the math from our tables, so we can say math equals 119 times 124, and then we can actually print the math just to check if it worked correctly. Yeah. No, it didn't. Why? Print math, so 119 times 124. Oh, it's the previous. So again, math without the S is what we've used up here. So math. So now it should be math. So it's actually going to replace it. There we go. So it worked correctly. So it took table A, so our first table, and it actually joined it with every single row from table B, and this is how the cross join works. Right. So moving on, we have the right joins, which I have white border here, just because as a data scientist or a data analyst, 99.99999% you will never use a right join. It's just there to exist. I don't even know why people had to create a right join. If you had to know how it works, it is basically exactly the same as the left join, as I've explained in the first video. Only in this case, in the right join, it treats table B as your first table and table A as your second table. So it works exactly the opposite as a left join. But again, you just ignore the right join. Don't even bother learning how to use a right join. There is no need, because you can use left joins, full joins, and inner joins to get around it. Right, the last thing I'm going to show is the union, all, or concat. So it's called union all in SQL, and then concat in Python, which I don't know why it's called concat, as concatenate is a different thing. But anyway, the way now union works differently than the joins. So when you're running joins is when you want to have new columns next to your existing table A. However, a union is not really adding new columns next to your table. It's taking some data and is inserting it into your table A. So as you can visualize here, we have two tables, again, table A and table B. They need to have exactly the same number of columns, otherwise it's not going to work. And the way it works is that we ignore the headings of table B and we just take all the rows from table B and we put them into table A. So we're just merging them together like this, unioning them together. So if you check here, all the blue arrows come from table A exactly as it is, and then table B having exactly the same number of columns, they just go under the columns of table A. And the total number of rows now is 7. So from table A plus 5 from table B equals 12. Some notes is that table A and table B must have exactly the same number of columns. Correct. As you can see, both of them have 4. The second one, output table, will use the column names of table A and B. B columns do not matter. This is actually wrong for Python. Column names do matter in Python, but I had this for SQL, whereas in SQL they don't matter if you have different column names. So as you can see here, we have date ID. In Python it was going to work fine as date, taking it from in SQL, but in Python we actually need to have exactly the same column names if you want your union or concat to work. Right, so the way it works now, we need our table A and table B. So I'm just going to print the shapes of the two tables we will use, and then also visualize the two tables. So table A is going to be, let's do print, and then let's say I need to go into project, and then comma, and then the shape. So table A is going to be the revenue row, and then table B is going to be the revenue row new. So copy this, then paste it down here, and let's say dot shape. Then again, create the B, is table B, and then is the revenue row new. Let's see. So imagine this as Your A table is going to be where you've created your analysis or your machine learning model. So A is going to be the data for that model. And then B is a month after, where you have new data and you want to take that new data and put it into your existing data frame or table to rerun your machine learning model. So this is a case of where you will use union. Right, and to run union is very simple. All you have to do, let's just visualize the two tables first before we run the union. So we can just say dot head, and then this one dot head, then run it, and then run it. So as you can see, we actually have different column names. Let me just quickly rerun it because I was doing some things before this video. If I run this again, run this again, run this again, there we go. Right, we can see that table A here at the top, it has exactly the same column numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and exactly the same column names. Date, day name, visitors, revenue. If you have different column names, you just have to rename them. If you want to run a union in Python. And to run the union, again, very simple. I'm just going to run it up here. You can just say pd.concat, open brackets, square brackets, then you put your A, comma, and then you put your B. It's very, very simple. So we run it. As you can see now, we have a total number of, we can't see actually because we haven't resetted the index. So what it did, it came all the way to 118 rows, which is actually our table A, and then it started from 0 for our table B. So what we can do is we can say comma here and just say ignore index equals true or false. Let's see, true. Yeah, there we go. So we can see we have a total of 149 rows, which is, it starts from 0, so it's actually 150. And then we can save this into a data frame. There we go, and then just say df.shape. There we go, 150. So if we do the math here, we add table A with table B. So we add this number with this number, and we have a total of 150 rows. Additionally, I've done something which I haven't shown you. I've expanded the number of rows we can actually visualize. If you want to do that yourself too, there is this cool function I found online, it's not mine, which is changing the display max rows you can actually visualize. So what this is saying is that you can actually change how many rows you can see before those 3 dots. So if you haven't run this, you're probably going to see those 3 dots and then the rest of the data. Here I'm just saying for the first 500 rows, I actually want to see them, and then we can add those 3 dots and skip some data just to save some memory. Right. So this is how you run the joins, and this is how you run the unions. So this is it for this tutorial. Again, I hope you've gained enough value out of this video. If you feel like you did, please click that like button, subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, or there is something you want me to explain better, or there is a new video that you want me to do, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this tutorial.